Coming up on this week's Inside Travel Talk, Hawaii just got easier to reach. Alaska train touring is becoming a huge trend. And later in the show, we have a special safari segment you won't want to miss, including a travel deal of the week that could save you $500 on your dream trip. The show starts right now.
The Inside Travel Talk podcast and radio show, presented by BluePlanetVacations.com, contains travel deals, promotions, and offers that may be time sensitive. All offers and information were accurate when the show aired. Travel deals and offers change constantly and are capacity controlled and subject to change without notice.
Explore your world. It's the Inside Travel Talk podcast and radio show, presented by BluePlanetVacations.com. Call or text the show now, 801-649-3700, 801-649-3700, and check out the podcast at InsideTravelTalk.com. And now, here are your hosts, Patrick Wiscombe and Mark Faldmo.
Hello and welcome to Inside Travel Talk. I'm Kevin, filling in for Patrick this week, and I'll try my best not to break anything while he's gone.
You've got big shoes to fill.
I know. Patrick makes this look easy, but I'm excited because I get to sit in and talk travel with the expert himself, Mark Faldmo from Blue Planet Vacations.
Happy to have you here. We'll make you a travel expert by the end of the show.
Perfect, because I definitely have questions today. We've got a great show. First, we'll cover some vacation news and a really interesting Alaska travel trend. And then later, we'll talk about safaris and a really strong travel deal this week.
And after the break, we'll switch to cruises. So a lot to cover today.
All right, Mark, let's start with some really good news for Utah travelers. Delta just announced a new Hawaii schedule update. And this one directly affects Salt Lake City.
Yes, and this is actually a very important addition. Delta is bringing back daily nonstop service from Salt Lake City to Kona on the Big Island of Hawaii, and it starts November 9th. What makes it notable is it begins earlier in the season than last year.
So that means winter travel just got easier?
Exactly. This is huge for the Mountain West. A nonstop to Kona eliminates connections through Los Angeles or Seattle, and that dramatically reduces travel stress. You leave Salt Lake in the morning, and you're on the Big Island that afternoon.
And Kona is different than Honolulu or Maui, right?
Very different. The Big Island is Hawaii's most diverse island. Volcanoes, lava fields, black sand beaches, coffee farms, snorkeling with manta rays. It's more adventurous and less crowded than Waikiki.
So who should consider this flight?
Anyone wanting a winter escape. Starting service earlier means families can plan Thanksgiving and Christmas travel sooner, and it usually helps airfare pricing because there are more seats available.
So basically, Utah just got a much easier way to go to Hawaii.
Exactly right. For local travelers, this is one of the most convenient Hawaii routes we've had in years.
All right, this next story surprised me. There's a growing trend. Train touring in Alaska is becoming a year-round travel product. I didn't even know Alaska trains were a thing beyond cruises.
Most people don't. And this is actually one of the most misunderstood parts of Alaska travel. Alaska is not just a cruise destination. It's really a land and rail destination.
So what exactly are these trains?
The big one is the Alaska Railroad. It runs between Seward, Anchorage, Talkeetna, and Denali National Park. And honestly, it's one of the most scenic train rides in the world.
Better than Europe trains?
Different. Europe trains are transportation. Alaska trains are sightseeing experiences, glass domes, narration, wildlife spotting, meals on board. You're seeing mountains, rivers, glaciers, sometimes even moose and bears.
So this is something cruise passengers should add?
Yes, and this is where travelers make a mistake. Many people cruise Alaska, but never actually see Alaska's interior. The national parks, Denali, and wildlife are inland.
So a cruise shows the coast, but the train shows the wilderness.
Exactly right.
Who is this best for?
First-time Alaska travelers. If you're flying that far, you should see Denali. The train is actually the relaxing way to do it. No driving, no planning, just scenery.
And this works before or after the cruise?
Both. Most people do 3 to 5 land days. Honestly, many travelers tell me the land portion becomes their favorite part of the trip.
All right. Speaking of bucket list travel, this next part of the show is something Patrick recorded with you previously, and I'm glad we're replaying it.
This is one of my favorite topics, African safaris. It's one of the most life-changing trips someone can take.
So we're going to play that safari discussion, and when we come back, we'll talk about this week's travel deal.
And if Africa has ever been on your list, stay with us because we've got a really good offer this week.
You have been on an African safari. I think it was one time.
Yep,
I thought it was twice, but maybe
one
it was once.
safari.
I would love to go. I don't know anything about Africa. I think an African safari would be absolutely amazing, but I don't know where to stay. I don't know about accommodations. I don't know what we're going to see, probably other than we're out on the plane and we're just observing wildlife. What was your experience and what is a typical itinerary?
I guess there's a couple different ways and places you can do a safari, and you can do safaris in South Africa and Kenya are the two most popular places to do a safari in. I would recommend Kenya. That's the Serengeti. There's a couple of different times you can do that. The most popular time is during the Great Migration.
That would be fascinating.
When the water buffalo.
What time of the year is that? Is that the fall or is that the spring?
Yeah, Great Migration is the end of August into middle of September.
What kind of weather is there during the migration? Is it pretty hot still?
Yeah, it is relatively hot, but not too bad. The thing I like about the safaris is when you get there, you can go to several different parks, like the Masai Mara. You can go to...
Wait, are these parks?
They are.
Oh, I didn't know that. I just assumed that you just drive out in the middle of someplace and go take a look. I didn't know they were parks.
Yeah, no, they are parks set aside by the government to protect the animals. So there's one, Samburu, the Masai Mara, different places like that where you can go. And each one has a little special treat that they can give you.
What do you mean a treat?
Different types of wildlife.
Okay. We're not talking like feed the lions.
No.
Here's a treat.
No.
It's just a different experience.
No, stay in your vehicle. Yeah.
Keep your hands inside.
Like in Samburu, the one thing I noticed a lot was giraffes. Lots of giraffes. And that's a smaller park. And then another one, Old Pajeda is another place which is famous for its rhinos.
What is it called? Pajeda?
Old Pajeda.
Old Pajeda.
Old Pajeda.
Okay.
Each one just has its kind of specialties. And then you have the Serengeti and Masai Mara, which is really where the Great Migration takes place.
You go to these different places throughout your particular safari that you go on?
So you stay in different lodges, tent camps. They're luxury tent camps.
Oh.
With
I'm
beds,
fine with that.
With beds and everything.
Oh, I'm really on board now.
But then they are tents. And so, it's pretty interesting. The thing I like about that is you usually have an early morning game drive. So you wake up early, go out and see that. Then you come back for lunch. And then there's an option for an afternoon game drive if you want to do that, which you'll see different animals out. If you're too tired, you can stay back and relax at the nice lodges. But you do get a good chance to see all of the animals, kind of the big five that they're always talking about: the elephants, the rhinos, lions, water buffalo, giraffes, possibly zebra. It's just a great experience. You get right up and personal with a lot of the animals. Like I remember once we just parked on a road and just a herd of elephants walked right past us.
That must have been horrifying and awesome at the same time.
Correct. Yeah.
Because they could just tip you over.
They could. So you really get to see those animals. Quite amazing to see how they interact with each other. Seeing the lions and cheetahs stalking prey. I did see a cheetah attempt to get a gazelle, but did not get a gazelle. And so, there's just how everything works down there is quite amazing.
How long is the safari?
So the safari you can do them shorter. Mm-hmm. The one I did was a 12-day safari.
Oh my goodness. That doesn't sound like it's long enough. Were you ready to come home?
No, I could have stayed there.
Really?
For a long time. One of my favorite things that we did on the safari is we stopped at this Actually, twice we did this. We stopped and kind of had breakfast out with the wildlife. And one place was we stopped on a river where there were hippopotamuses.
Oh my goodness.
In the river. And, the sounds they make and just to see that happening was amazing. You're just right there, a safe distance away from those, but amazing to see the animals.
Those animals don't mess around.
No, they don't.
All right, Mark, that safari segment honestly made me want to go immediately.
It has that effect on people.
And now the important part, the deal.
This week's travel deal is $500 off any custom or private African safari itinerary. That's significant because safaris are not packaged trips. They're personalized experiences.
So this isn't a one-size-fits-all vacation?
Not at all. We build the trip around the traveler. South Africa, Kenya, Tanzania, luxury lodges, family safaris, photography safaris, and this discount applies to all of them.
So someone who's been thinking about it should call now.
Yeah, safari planning usually starts 8 to 12 months ahead, and the best lodges sell out early.
All right, great vacation ideas today. Hawaii flights getting easier, Alaska train adventures, and a safari deal. And coming up next, we switch to cruises. We're going to talk about one of the most fascinating cruise itineraries in the world, the Panama Canal. We'll be right back after the break.
They've literally traveled millions of miles to answer your travel-related questions. Yeah, they really have. You're listening to the Inside Travel Talk podcast and radio show, presented by BluePlanetVacations.com, America's best travel advisors. Patrick and Mark will be back after these messages.
This segment of Inside Travel Talk is sponsored by El Dorado Spa Resorts. Escape to Cancun's Riviera Maya with authentic, all-inclusive luxury at an El Dorado Spa Resort. To book your romantic beach getaway, contact Blue Planet Vacations at 888-718-7717 or blueplanetvacations.com.
This is the Inside Travel Talk podcast and radio show, presented by BluePlanetVacations.com, America's best travel advisors. Call or text the show right now, 801-649-3700, 801-649-3700. And now, here are your hosts, Patrick Wiscombe and Mark Faldmo.
Welcome back to Inside Travel Talk. I'm Kevin, filling in for Patrick this week, alongside Mark Faldmo from Blue Planet Vacations. In the first half of the show, we talked Hawaii flights, Alaska train touring, and African safaris. Now we switch to cruises, and later in the segment, we're going to talk about one of the most famous voyages in the world, the Panama Canal. But first, some cruise news. This first story is actually pretty interesting. MSC Cruises has partnered with a marine conservation organization called Orca during their Alaska sailings.
I really like this trend we're seeing in cruising. Right now, cruise lines are moving beyond just sightseeing and adding education. On these MSC Alaska cruises, wildlife experts actually come on board and help passengers identify whales, dolphins, and marine life.
So this is almost like a floating nature program?
Exactly. Alaska is one of the best places in the world to see whales, but many passengers don't know what they're looking at. Having conservationists on board turns whale watching into an actual learning experience.
Does that matter for the overall cruise?
It really does. Alaska's not a pool deck destination. The scenery is the entertainment. When guests understand what they're seeing, glaciers calving, humpback feeding patterns, orcas hunting, the trip becomes much more memorable.
So this makes MSC more competitive in Alaska?
Yes, MSC is newer to Alaska, and this helps them stand out. They're adding value without adding cost.
All right. The second MSC story might make people want to book immediately. They're upgrading Ocean Cay Marine Reserve.
Ocean Koi is MSC's private island in the Bahamas, and it's actually one of the better private islands in cruising because it's designed as a beach and relaxation destination instead of an amusement park.
What are the upgrades?
They're expanding beaches, improving dining areas, adding evening activities, and increasing marine protection areas. The goal is a more natural Caribbean island experience rather than water parks and loud attractions.
So this is more of a relaxing cruise stop?
Yes, it's designed for swimming, snorkeling, and sunset views. For many travelers, the private island becomes the favorite day of the cruise.
And MSC cruises are often priced competitively too.
Very much so. MSC tends to be one of the best values in cruising right now, especially for families and first-time cruisers.
Another cruise story. Norwegian Cruise Line may soon restart cruises from Philadelphia.
This is actually big regional news. More departure ports mean travelers don't have to fly to Florida. Philadelphia could open cruise options for millions of people in the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic.
Why does that matter?
Convenience. Driving to a cruise saves airfare, baggage fees, and travel stress. When cruising becomes easier to reach, more people cruise.
So we're seeing cruise lines expand where ships sail from?
Exactly, and it shows cruise demand is still growing.
All right, let's talk about the Panama Canal. This is one of those bucket list trips people hear about but don't always understand.
It's honestly one of the greatest engineering wonders in the world. Ships are lifted and lowered between two oceans using locks and freshwater lakes. You literally sail from the Atlantic Ocean to the Pacific Ocean.
And this is not a normal cruise itinerary.
No, it's a journey cruise, usually 14 to 16 days, and it feels more like an expedition than a vacation.
You and Patrick recorded a great explanation of this previously, so let's play that segment.
If you want to text the show, because we do take texts during the week, you can call or text us 801-649-3700, 801-649-3700 to text your question. Diane is texting the show, and she's asking about Panama Canal cruises. This is a client question from your client, but she texted you.
Yeah, so she had 6 different questions that she asked. And, I thought they're all really good questions. There's so much information out there on the Panama Canal. I've been lucky enough. I've done the Panama Canal a few times.
Diane's first question is, when is the best time to go see the Panama Canal on a cruise?
I think the best time is in the late spring or late fall. This is when they're repositioning ships to and from different locations. There are Panama Canal cruises that go fairly frequently, but you'll get a better deal on these repositioning cruises when they're just trying to get them from point A to point B to start a new season somewhere. And those usually happen when they're trying to position ships from the Caribbean to go to Alaska, or vice versa, ships from Alaska going to the Caribbean for the winter season.
Another one of the questions that she had is, what direction, meaning east or west, should I choose? Should I do the full transit or the partial transit? I guess you better explain what the difference is.
There are cruises. You can go to Miami. You can go to Florida and take a Panama Canal cruise that only goes through the Atlantic locks. That's a good way to see how the locks work, experience the canal. But I'd recommend a full transit. So this is one that goes from the Pacific to the Atlantic or vice versa. So you'd start on the East Coast, end in the West Coast, or vice versa on that. If you do the partial transit, you miss the Gatun Cut, you miss what is the Panama Canal. You will experience going through the locks, but you'll miss what is the Panama Canal.
All right, so full transit is what you're saying here.
Yeah, full transit.
Diane is also asking, should I get a balcony if I'm going to do a Panama Canal cruise?
I would say yes, because when you're going through the canal, you can go experience it on the front of the ship. You can experience it on deck, but watching from your balcony, you get just as good of views of all of that. And then when you're cruising actually through the canal, through the Gatun Cut, you get to see that. I think one of our other questions is, what side of the ship should I be on?
Yeah.
It really doesn't matter. But if you're one place where it may matter is when you're going, we'll just take going from Pacific to Atlantic. You'd want to be on the right side of the ship because that's the side where Panama City is on.
So starboard side.
Starboard side. Yep. If you're going the other direction, then you would want to be on the left or port side of the ship. But it really doesn't matter on that. There's just a little bit more to see on that side of the ship.
How long does it take to get through the Panama Canal?
It's a full day process. So,
oh, it is. I think sometimes when they say canal, I always think of like these small watering ditches.
Yeah.
That's not what this is.
No, it's a big ordeal to actually get through the canal. Early in the morning, all the ships are going from Pacific to Atlantic, and then they meet up in Gatun Lake.
Now, what's it called?
It's Gatun Lake.
Gatun.
Gatun.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a man-made lake, and that's kind of what drives the canal because it's all gravity driven. All the water is filled by gravity in the locks. And so it all it flows from the mountains of Panama into the lake. And so they only do traffic in one direction now. And then in the evening, it opens up to go the other direction.
Oh, interesting.
Now, I've only done Panama Canal from Pacific side to Atlantic side. So in that, we started through the canal at about 5 a.m. is when the process starts going through the canal. And then...
So it's kind of an AM, PM.
Yes.
So west to east is AM, and then of course the opposite in the evening or the afternoon.
Yeah, because there's the Gatun Cut where the ships go through. There's not room for two-way traffic. Well, there might be, but it's pretty narrow, so it's safer just to go all one direction.
One of the last questions that Diane had was, should she go through the new locks or the old locks?
Well, I have not been through the new locks. I think I would prefer the old locks. Now, how that's decided is if the ship is above a certain size, you'll go through the new locks. The smaller ships that can fit through the old locks will always go through the old locks. If you're wanting to go through the old locks, which I think that's where a lot of the scenery is in the old locks, you'll want to go on a smaller ship through the Panama Canal.
That really makes me want to do it.
The Panama Canal surprises people. It ends up being one of the most memorable cruises they ever take.
You've done a lot of cruises. Do you have a favorite cruise line for the Panama Canal?
I do. Princess Cruises is my favorite line for that itinerary. They've been sailing the canal for decades, and their ships, enrichment programs, and naturalists are excellent for this type of voyage. The onboard lectures help you understand what you're seeing while you're transiting the locks.
So it fits the destination.
Exactly. Some cruises are about entertainment. The Panama Canal is about the experience, and Princess does that very well.
Perfect timing, because this week's cruise deal is with Princess Cruises.
Right now, Princess has a limited time promotion that includes reduced fares plus perks like onboard credit, Wi-Fi, and drink packages depending on the sailing. For longer voyages like the Panama Canal, those extras become very valuable.
So this is a good time to book?
Yes, Panama Canal cruises usually sell out early because ships only transit during certain seasons, spring and fall. Booking early gives the best cabin selection and pricing.
So if someone has ever thought about doing this cruise,
this is the time to start planning.
All right, let's recap today's show. We talked about new nonstop Hawaii flights from Salt Lake to Kona, Alaska train touring, and African safaris. And then we covered cruise news, including MSC's Alaska Wildlife Program, upgrades to Ocean Cay, Norwegian's possible Philadelphia sailings. And we learned why the Panama Canal is one of the world's great bucket list cruises, especially with Princess Cruises. Thanks for joining us this week on Inside Travel Talk. I'm Kevin, filling in for Patrick alongside Mark Faldmo.
And we'll hopefully have Patrick back next week.
Be sure to join us again next week for more travel tips, vacation ideas, and cruise advice. Don't just dream about travel, go make a memory. See you next week.
That's it. That's the end of the show. You've been listening to the Inside Travel Talk podcast and radio show with Patrick Wiscombe and Mark Faldmo, presented by BluePlanetVacations.com. Book your adventure right now. Call 888-718-7717. That's 888-718-7717. Thanks for listening. Have a great week.
Inside Travel Talk is brought to you by AMA Waterways. From castles and capitals to vistas and villages, visit some of Europe's most remarkable sites and cities. To set out on your own river cruise journey, contact Blue Planet Vacations at 888-718-7717 or blueplanetvacations.com.